Hi there, everybody. Mike Petras here again, your Star Realtor of Star and the Treasure Valley, back with another episode of Mikey's Monthly Market Updates, now discussing the month of November 2021 and what happened in the real estate market out here in the Treasure Valley. Happy December, Merry Christmas early too as well, and I look forward to diving into this information to let you know what's happening in our real estate market right after this. Hi, welcome back after the break. Again, I am Mike Petras. I am your Star Realtor of Star and the Treasure Valley, back with November's edition of Mikey's Monthly Market Update here at the beginning of December. And if you are familiar with these videos, I'm going to go ahead and break down the data of what is happening in the real estate market right here in the Treasure Valley or the greater Boise area. But before we do, feel free to click on that subscribe button down below so that you can be in tune to the videos that I come up with, because not only do I do these, but I also do educational videos about what's happening here in Idaho, places to go see, awesome restaurants, and so much more. Also hit that notification bell so that you're constantly in the loop. But most importantly, if you are thinking about making a move here to the Treasure Valley, look in the description below. You'll see a link to my free relocation guide for you so that you can be completely geared up to know what's happening here in the Treasure Valley fully before you decide to make that move. And of course, if you want to reach out to me with any further questions, please feel free to do so at 208-715-STAR. That's 208-715-7827. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's dive into the PowerPoint presentation. Let's take a look at the graphs and let's go ahead and really break this down for you. All right, everybody. Well, welcome back to the PowerPoint presentation side of things. Let's go ahead and let's break this down. I know probably a lot of you now that are subscribing to this channel are very familiar with how I go ahead and graph this out and kind of let you know what's basically been the trends that are happening here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start off with Ada County like we normally do. And as we can see here, of course, most of you know now that we have, hit our plateau really as of May of 2021, when things really kind of started to level out. But, as I had kind of the feeling that was going to happen back in October last month, that things were going to start maybe even ticking up for a couple of reasons. There's another video that I do have on here that you might want to take a look at, and that is inflation and how it's going to affect our housing market. Because everybody knows that as inflation goes up, so does everything else. And you can definitely see it at the pump. We'll get to mortgage rates a little bit later on in this video and what the Fed has been talking about too, to kind of keep you in that loop. But as I kind of predicted, taking a look at this, and you'll see it definitely in the next slide over, but you can see our average sold price right over here is actually starting to tick up again, even though the median price is kind of staying flat. Now, the difference between the median price is basically all the houses that were listed for sale, they're taken right in the middle and taking that number to where, of course, the average sold price is going to be the average of them all and kind of slapping it together. Now, could it be very well that maybe more $1 million homes, popped on the market and kind of adjusted that overall, the overall average sold price? Possibly. But it could also be that just things are kind of starting to tick up at the 3 to 7% that I'm kind of feeling is going to happen, if not maybe even more due to inflation. So, but we are seeing that trend. Things starting to kind of tick up here as I kind of figured. We'll just have to keep watching that in the month of December after all is said and done, and then all the way into 2022. And then as the Fed in 2022 is thinking about changing the interest rates, that could definitely make an impact on some sort of level to maybe, raise up the inventory enough and chase away some of the buyers to where we could start seeing some market corrections, but we'll get to that. Okay, going on to the next slide, I just kind of like to break down and show you what happened just in this year alone. And again, if we're looking back here at the tail end of November, you can see that our average sold prices are starting to actually tick up. So again, buyers, if you've been on the fence, you know, about maybe getting in there and purchasing, waiting for that market correction or waiting for a crash, again, the data is really kind of not supporting that here at the moment. So if you've been on that fence, with interest rates being talked about again with the Fed due to the increase of inflation rates, you might want to consider that purchase now before things get a whole heck of a lot worse. You know, holiday season's right around the corner, or holiday season, I'm sorry, is not around the corner, it's here, buyers. That also brings out a lot of the competition that you might normally face. Even though our competition is not as fierce as it was about 7 or 8 months ago, or even a year ago, when there was multiple offers and a lot of fighting, that has really kind of subsided itself. So buyers, keep in mind, if that's what chased you out of the market and you said, I really don't want to fight people on this aspect anymore to try and get this house, that has really subsided off. And the competition has really tapered down. So if that was your hurdle to get over that fence, reach out to me. We can go ahead and talk about it, or reach out to your favorite realtor, lender, etc., and really kind of consider getting back into the game. But buyers' prices, according to the data, are starting to tick back up, and we'll just kind of see how that progresses as we go, especially into 2021. If we take a look at the listings and solds, again, as I was saying, inventory, yeah, year over year, it has spiked up. We have seen a grow in inventory, because back, you know, over here, and I've mentioned this in prior videos, this is where, you know, really that 23.7% equity run really kind of started. It's because you could see that the solds were overwhelming. It was really stripping out all the inventory that was available. And of course, supply versus demand, the less supply, the more demand, the more it's going to jump up the prices. And that is what happened here in the Treasure Valley. But as we see inventory starting to return, we're also seeing the inventory starting to actually kind of go the other way, and the solds are still keeping up. So unless the solds are really going to dump off, that people really lose interest in the Treasure Valley and the inventory really becomes stagnant, then we're just not going to see a crash or a major price reduction, you know, coming up anytime soon. So price reductions are actually on the way up here in the Treasure Valley. A lot of people are kind of tapering them down, but you got to ask it, is it because of such an influx in inventory, or is it because maybe some people are asking too much for their properties? Because that is still going on. And I would more or less bet on the latter of that, saying that people are asking too much for their properties and they're kind of coming down because they know that the market is leveled out and this is the way that things are now. Because you can actually see here that if we look at the listings and solds, our listings are actually kind of going the opposite direction. Now, also, why might they be going the opposite direction? Well, it's holiday season. Not a lot of people want to rock the boat during the holiday season. They don't want to sell quite yet. They want to wait until the holidays are over. Then they'll go ahead and consider that sale and that lateral move, or move wherever they decide to go. But as long as the solds don't keep up to the current inventory that is on there, we still have the demand, we're probably still going to level out this market, if not start ticking up. And we could see here that that very well could start even flip-flopping if the demand starts, you know, raising itself back up. Of course, I've got another video too that talks about Fortune magazine and how they were talking about how we're the most overvalued market in the US. But they really didn't kind of explain the reason why, as just more or less saying, well, people were able to work remote. Well, if you live here in Idaho, you know that that's not really the reason why people are moving to Idaho. They're moving out for the values, the conservative values that this state has, because we are still one, if not the least regulated state in the union, and that is extremely popular to people with money, okay, coming from California, Oregon, Washington, even Texas, say New York. They're just still flocking here. And with the amount of equity that they have in their homes and coming out here, because Idaho is still not this huge, you know, overpriced market as compared to those states. So they're going to have the equity to be able to come on out. And as long as they're continuing to do that and they're continuing to buy up our inventory and keep it on a plane, again, if you're looking for that major crash around the corner, or you're looking for major price reductions, to start happening, or market corrections, the data is still just not quite supporting that as of yet. One of the things that is kind of happening, though, is that our days on market is rising up. Okay, so again, when I was talking about the competition buyers, the competition, as we can see back here, where we were starting 17 days, 18 days, 16 days, all the way down 10, 9, those fever pitch fights that you might have been used to a year ago have really kind of subsided. The demand has kind of tapered off to that point, a bit, to where it's not fighting for, like, say, 30 offers on one particular property. So buyers, if you've been on the fence, it's probably time to jump back in, especially during the holiday season, which is probably going to have some effect on this too as well. Because, again, not a lot of buyers are out there during the holiday seasons, because like the sellers, they don't want to rock the boat either. They'd much rather either A, stay in their rental or their lateral move property until the holidays are over. So that's also something that we're going to have to keep our eyes on when it comes to the days on market. Inventory growth does have a bit to that. But again, if we're looking at, the actual demand and how the solds are keeping up, that's kind of changing the spectrum. But I just want to go ahead and show you that. So buyers, again, that's something to kind of chew on. Cancels and expires for Ada County for this month. The cancels actually kind of came back down, a little bit, but they're still kind of staying, about. And again, cancels are when people are like, well, maybe I don't really want to sell my house after all, or maybe they're just not getting the price that they're looking for. Just like expireds. Expireds generally will be the holdouts, the people that really just want to get that price, and then their contract expires, and then their house comes off the market. And of course, we track that, in our MLS stats. And I just go ahead and bring that to your attention, because the more spike that we get, especially in cancels, the more it could kind of dictate that people are hesitating for maybe other reasons. But we can kind of see that it's staying kind of maybe a normal pattern, maybe a little bit more here, maybe because, the new administration, inflation rates, et cetera, people might be also a little leery on selling their houses in this market. So we'll just have to continue to watch those trends. Okay, diving into Canyon County. Again, if we're looking at the sold prices, we're starting to tick up at the end. When we get there towards the end, we'll kind of see that a little bit more. Our median price seems to have dipped down a bit for this month as compared to last month. Okay, but again, we're kind of starting to see that upward rise. So is it due to inflation? Is it due to, still the supply and demand out here? Are we still going to go up that 3 to 7%? I think we're going to. And I really think that inflation is actually going to impact that even more. So buyers, again, you've got to take a look at how our inflation rates have been rising, which have been astronomical levels. And again, even your rent prices, if you're out there renting, are still going to rise due to inflation. So eventually will the interest rates. And I'll go ahead and summarize with what the Fed is talking about with the interest rates. Okay, supply or the listings and solds. Okay, we can kind of see inventory starting to taper back down here in Canyon County. But again, the solds are doing it with it. But again, for the last few months here, this seems to be at almost kind of like an even keel gap that we got going on over here in Canyon County. And I really think that our inventory supply is just heading down because it's seasonal, and we'll kind of really see what starts hitting here during the beginning of the new year. And also definitely pay attention to when the interest rates do raise up. Will that chase away enough demand? And how much are they going to raise the interest rates up? Again, whether you want to believe it or not, the Fed still had, even though there's a separation between the executive and the Fed, there's still a political intermingling between the both. And if the interest rates were to go up so high, say like about 2 or maybe even 3 points to really rattle this, the current administration's approval rating would definitely tank even further than it is, and people would be screaming at the presidency. So it is, are they going to help out the administration from completely tanking itself, which I think we all know is kind of already doing its own job on that aspect. But that is also something to pay attention to because as to timing, as to when they're planning on raising the interest rates. And we'll talk again about that here momentarily. Days on market, of course, we are on the rise again. It's not that fever pitch fight, that we had. So buyers, if you're on the fence about that, don't need to beat a dead horse with that. But we are kind of going up, seasonally, too, as well, because not a lot of people are out there, going up to buy up the inventory. So that could also be creating the factor. Because if we actually, December of last year really wasn't, the predictor or the say how of, our market, because it was just the demand was absolutely skyrocketing with so much, with no supply. But if we're looking at like January and February back in 2020, for example, though, at the end of the holiday seasons, and then you see when we get in April, May, June, in 2020, when people were, really starting to look back into the market. And then, of course, the hot season, and you can see that trend coming through. So are we going to start seeing, the roller coaster again on the days on market? We'll just have to keep paying attention and find out. All right, Canyon County last month was really like, wow, that is a lot of cancels, that happened. But this month, there wasn't so many cancels. A lot of people went through with it, but our expireds are on the rise. So Canyon County actually is really it's still behind Ada County, but it's starting it's starting to catch up, okay, in some aspects, because people know they can go out to Canyon County and it's a bit cheaper, okay? So as long as they're going to be sucking up the supply out there, so sucking up the inventory, it's going to raise the median price, the average sold price, etc. So the expires did tick up just a little bit, as compared to last month, and especially like, say, August. So maybe you've got some people out there that are really kind of holding out for the price that they're looking for. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get out of this, and we'll go ahead and we'll summarize. Be right back with you. All right, everybody. So let's go ahead and let's summarize what is basically kind of happening this month. So in general, what the data is basically showing us is that our prices are probably going to be on the rise here at the 3 to 7% per month, as I was kind of guessing last month, if not maybe more, due to the inflation rise that we're seeing. So buyers, what is this saying to you? It's saying that we're probably going to still continue to tick up, unless if the inventory completely jumps up, which we haven't seen, and the demand just really tapers off, which we're also not seeing in the data. It may not be coming for that major price reduction, market correction, or even a crash that you're waiting for. So buyers, though, but I do want to go ahead and talk about interest rates, because we know as inflation does tick up, interest rates are going to have to follow, or our dollar is it's not going to be worth anything. We're going to be in trouble as a nation. And we know that our inflation rates have been on the highest rise that they have been in over 30 years. So that's something to consider. The Fed recently, and I do recommend that you go read it. You can read it on, I believe, CNBC, recently was talking about saying that they might increase the interest rates sooner, considering that our inflation rates continue to rise. And there's no stop here. They're not seeing a stop. So they were in the minutes reflecting and saying that if it continues the direction that it is going, that they will raise the interest rates sooner than later. And we just don't know how much. Will they do a small increase? Well, you hope so. But for every point that they do tack on, you're tacking on another 10% to your mortgage. And that's just money that you're giving away in interest. And right now, the rates are still within the low threes, but they are kind of, ticking here and there. They're being teased. The Fed is kind of, in my opinion, I mean, I'm not the Fed. I'm not a federal banker, that's in the reserve, but they're teasing it out. They're trying to get a feel for, how inflation is coming and what they need to do to make a correction, to take some money, out of the economy and be able to float the dollar. So where it's going to be able to still be worth something. So on a side note, if you are, afraid of inflation, just keep in mind precious metals, are always something maybe good to invest in, at this time. So if you're maybe in the investor world, it's not a bad idea to consider. And of course, investing in real estate is really a great way to hedge against inflation too as well. It's better than just leaving your money in the bank in a savings account. Even though they do raise it up when inflation does come up, if you're talking about what you can make in real estate as compared to what you can make in a savings account, real estate's going to beat it out just about every single day and twice on Sunday. And again, the other thing that we need to kind of keep our eye on as the inflation rates do go up is how much they're actually going to raise home values to as well. So buyers, again, you're looking at interest rates on the way up. You're looking at home values still probably on the way up here. Are we seeing any data here in our Treasure Valley that's indicating that we're going to have a major market correction sometime soon? The data is just not showing it. And even a crash. Are we even seeing something like that? No. I mean, honestly, I think the one thing that could have done it might have been forbearance. But again, people are coming out of forbearance. And again, I do have another video if you'd like to watch that on forbearance. Again, the forbearance is not looking like it's going to be that critical thing that's going to crash the market like it happened back in 2008 when basically they got super greedy in the mortgage industry and there was no regulation. So buyers, that kind of basically sums it up for you. Sellers, okay, let's talk about what's going on with you. Right now, I mean, inventory, yes, is on the rise, but it's also kind of declining seasonally. We'll see what happens at the beginning of 2021 and into next year. And as if demand does start really kind of tapering off and more inventory does come on, it's just going to be harder to sell your house. And then you might be seeing that you have to make a price reduction in order to sell your home. Okay, so you might not get that value. Right now, our values have plateaued. They really have. Are they starting to tick back up? The other question that we've got, of course, is going to be inflation. In the other video that I had, talking about inflation versus, home values, they're kind of anticipating that inflation is going to continue to go up, which is going to rise up the price of your house. So do you want to hold on, for that and see if that's going to be the case? You might want to. Me as a homeowner, I'm considering that, but I'm also considering, making a move. And heading up maybe another direction here in Idaho, but it's still in the market as it is right now. I still think that we're going to tick up about 3 to 7% and maybe even more, considering what inflation rates are going to do. But again, if you're looking to make that lateral move now, while interest rates are still low, because they do still apply to you, if you're trying to obtain a mortgage, now is probably a good time, to be able to go through. And especially, during the holiday season, you may not have as much traffic when it comes to the buyers, coming after your property, but again, if you think about that and you're making a lateral move, like say out of state, the same principle is going to apply. So sellers, right now the market it's really kind of leveled itself out. That fever pitch that happened, about a year ago, 6 months ago, it's really subsided itself. It's really kind of over, and our market has plateaued here in the Treasure Valley. So it's just things to think about. And if you want to list and you want to bounce off some ideas about with me and about how the market is really kind of leveling out, or how the market might, portray itself coming up here in the future, love to be able to talk to you about it. You can always reach out to me. And again, buyers, same thing as well. You can reach out to me at 208-715-STAR. Again, that's 208-715-7827. Also, don't forget to click on that subscribe button below because, I always come out with educational videos about other things, happening here in the Treasure Valley, real estate wise, what's happening in the market as it pertains to the Fed. Interest rates. I talk about inflation. Obviously, I'd like to go around, and interview different restaurants, let give you heads up on cities before you decide to move here. And if you are thinking about making a relocation out here to our area, don't forget to click in the description area and download my free relocation guide, which will let you know everything you're going to want to know about the Treasure Valley before you want to make the move. And again, if you have any questions, you can always just feel free to give me a call and bounce them off of me. Well, thanks again, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I hope it's been informational for you to let you know what is happening in current trends here in the Treasure Valley. But before we go, I do want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you all. I hope you have a wonderful time with your family, friends. Get out there, do some volunteer work, make a difference. And I will see everybody after the new year, and we'll go ahead and we'll discuss my predictions for 2022 coming up and what's going to happen maybe in the next coming year. But I just want to wish you all again a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. God bless you all. And I look forward to the day that I call you my neighbor. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.